Hi, I'm Ellen Siegel, and today I'm talking with Michael Rosenbaum of Path to Enlightenment and Alternative Choices. Relax into your openness and enjoy this enlightening conversation.
Hi, I'm Michael Rosenbaum, and I have my great honor to introduce someone to you. We're going to be doing a series that I'm calling Bringing Heaven on Earth. It's going to be a long series, but the first segment of that is a group of conversations between Ellen and myself called The Center of the Universe is Within You. And Ellen is my dear, dear friend and spiritual journeyer. We've been in a spiritual school together for over 15 years, and we talk literally every week. And she's brilliant. She's amazing. And I want her to be part of these podcasts so you can hear what she has to say. So Ellen, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I've been a counselor and social worker for, 40 some odd years. And that was just a jumping off point. Spirituality, metaphysics, mainly living our true self in everyday life, I would say. And that serves the people that work with me and are around me, helping them to be as free as possible inside themselves, free of issues, problems, how to navigate so that they're free to be creative and their true selves. So, and Michael, for people who are going to find this talk through avenues that I have, could you just say a little something about yourself too?
Okay, so I'm an alternative healer practitioner in Connecticut, Danbury, Connecticut. And what I love to do is inspire people to make positive changes. And I do that in different ways. And I'm a transformational hypnotherapist. So I like to dig in with somebody into the subconscious, unconscious mind so you can remap your brain. You can change things. You know, you actually can. And everybody can, any age, any time. And then my absolute inspiration for me is spirituality. I'm just in love with finding out more and more about spirituality. And so it's a great ride.
And for those of you who haven't experienced working with Michael, I know his meditations and the downloads of wisdom that come through him are really what have me here today, aside from the fun that we have in our classes and things like that. So, okay.
All right, let's jump in. So I'm going to read over the course of many, many years. I've been getting downloads, deeper and deeper downloads from cosmic consciousness or the higher mind or my soul and spirit to guide me. These are for me. But what I found is that when I share them with other people, they get something out of it also, even different than what I got. So that's the purpose of these talks. Ellen kind of nudged me to do this because I would share these with her and she said, oh, this is great. And we would talk about them. And she said, you know, we ought to do this more publicly. So here we go. The first one we're going to do is called The Center of the Universe is Within Me. We're breaking this up into actually 3 segments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the download as it came to me. And then we're going to go back, the 2 of us, and we're going to talk about what it means to us. And then we'll read it again at the end, having heard all that, to see if it lands a little differently, having gone through the process. So everything that is seemingly outside of you is part of you. There is not outside or inside. There is just awareness and experience. Love is the container that holds all of the inside and outside and has absolutely no form. Your angry selves, upset parts, wishes and flaws are a figment of your imagination that comes out of fragments of your consciousness that you perceive as separate, but the truth is they are all part of the whole of you. And when you experience the whole of you, those fragments just mix into the whole and have no separate power, no separate reality, and in an instant become an expression of the whole. The whole is love, and the myriad expressions of love come from the whole, and then all your expressions will be of love. If you come from the whole, you don't have to worry about the outcome. It will always be an expression of love, but the whole is your home from which you always feel content and safe. So it doesn't matter what the expression is, because an expression, a fragment, can never take you from your experience of the whole if you choose to live from the whole. So that was the first little piece here. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
So when I first read this, and still just now, one of the things that catches me is that last line, if you choose to live from the whole. And I remember when that was like a new thought. So just the fact that the thought is active for anyone who's listening in, who may not have yet considered that they are part of a larger self, a larger energy, a larger perspective. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the whole. What is the whole? WHOLE.
Okay, well, for me, as I've gone deeper and deeper into meditation and to some trainings that we've had, is that the whole for me is the part of our consciousness that's pure awareness, that has no form to it. So it's not a something. The minute it becomes a something, then it's a part of the whole, but it's not the whole. So the whole, in a way, is all the parts combined together. But when all the parts are combined together, it's just one. It's just potentiality. It has no form yet. So when it says everything is seemingly outside of you is part of you, if you're coming from that place of pure awareness and aware that you're aware, then everything you're aware of is a part of you, but it's not you. It's just one of the parts of the expression of you, but you are the whole, which is the formless part of you. And words can only point to that, to the conscious mind. It almost sounds nonsensical, but you can experience it. And when you experience it, there's like a deep sense of safety and bliss. And what I've discovered, love. That's kind of at the center of who you are, is this feeling of love. So Ellen, what are your thoughts about that?
What strikes me about what you've started to share is that idea of awareness. And anyone who has come to this podcast or this recording, I would say you wouldn't be attracted here if you hadn't done a lot of work on expanding your awareness to whatever degree you see yourself at. And that idea of being aware that you're aware. That's so there's observer, and then there's like a super observer. I'm aware that I'm aware. And that gives a window into how to look at aspects of our lives. And this, in this download, the idea that these separate parts, which maybe when we've had less awareness, we felt trapped in, whether it could be our angry selves or upset parts, which is one of the things that were referenced here, our flaws, things like that, that we couldn't seem to get a bigger perspective on, that once we add this concept of the larger whole that we are part of, that those aspects sort of relax and become, we can have confidence that that becomes, it takes its place in the whole. So the angst or irritation that can come with the separate parts, while the flavors of them might still exist, the angst doesn't exist once you have that greater awareness. And that relaxation that in our personal growth process, to me, is actually relaxing into the whole.
Okay. Can you give me an example of that?
Let's see. Well, I'm thinking of times where I had what I might call bad behavior. Where I wasn't so nice. Yeah, let's imagine that. My mother would say, "Can't you be nice? Can't you be nice? Can't you be nice?" Which meant that I wasn't very nice. So when I have a larger perspective, that not being nice, I get to see it as like a stimulus for growth or a flaw like that. I mean, we all have ups and downs, ins and outs, lights and darks, whatever that is. And that as I have gained more awareness, it sort of fits into a larger whole of me working on myself, which is accompanied by self-appreciation, the relaxation of self-judgment, and just more kindness to myself. And then that opens me up to whether it's the love that's inside of me, that's inside of each one of us, but it's getting to the heart of that love, which then later, through all our self-work and training, I can speak for myself, has put me in touch with, like, love is like a network of energy that's at the heart. And that really is the container. And that's what the larger context is, the whole. So it's in the center and it spreads out. I don't know if that is clear at all, but that's how I experience it.
Okay. An example came to mind for me about this, because in this writing, it talks about your angry cells, your upset cells, those parts. And when I'm working with a client and we're looking at some of those parts, the angry self, the sad self, the helpless self, all of those parts that people, when they feel them, their instinct or their ego instinct is to get rid of them. I don't want them. Get them out of me. Excise them. But what happens in the process, that if you bring love to that part, and we do a whole process where you connect with it, and from your higher self, you begin to bring love to that part, what happens is the part begins to transform. We're not getting rid of it. We're not even thinking it's bad, but we're giving it a different energy, the energy of love and acceptance and connection. And what happens is that that part begins to dissolve and shift, and it's like it becomes part of the whole experientially. So it was acting out in some way because it felt separated from the whole. Once you join it back up to the whole, then it transforms. It's no longer that angry part, that helpless part, and becomes part of the whole energy. And the underlying experience of the whole energy is one of love and one of flow And perfection is you're not trying to change anything.
Mm.
So that's kind of when I read this and when this came through for me, it kind of reminded me that the idea of coming from the whole, then all your expressions will be of love. That's one of the statements there. And so if you can come from that part of yourself and then bring that energy to those other parts of yourself, then what happens is a transformation just automatically happens. There's no forcing, there's no pushing, there's no judgments, but somehow energetically, it's like if there was a river that was dammed up, right? And the water wasn't circulating and it got to be a little fetid, right? But once we open up that river, the part that got blocked off and it flows through, then it becomes part of a greater flow and it resolves itself through the energy, part of the greater. So I would say if I learned anything over these years with spirituality was to keep surrendering to the greater whole was the answer to healing anything, right? Because the greater whole comes from a place of love. And when you come from that greater whole, it says you don't have to worry about the outcome because it will always be an expression of love. Because you're coming from this greater you. This is not the ego you. This is the greater you. And we'll have more to say about that in our other segments about, well, who is this greater you and how do you get there? But that's the concept, the way I see it.
And just want to underline the idea of the energy that people can get stuck in their feelings and that there's a lot more going on there energetically. And if you think of it as energetically, it takes the, I'll say the duality out of it. And the rigid separateness of the experiences into the whole. And I appreciate this so much.
So coming from the whole is really, it's like a different focus. So you can focus on your part, whatever part's up, good or bad, or you can focus on the whole, right? Or we say, another way of saying that, is you can focus on the ego, which is involved in all the parts of us, in duality. Duality meaning opposites, right? There's this, there's that. There's light, there's dark. There's happy, there's sad. This world is made up of opposites, and that's where the ego lives. But the higher self lives in a non-dualistic world, meaning there are no opposites. It's just this feeling of the whole. And how do you get from the part to the whole to me, is how you navigate life, and master it. You first got to understand when you're in the part, when you're in the ego, right. And you have to have had an experience of the higher self or the whole, so you have a place to go to anchor. And that's something I teach my clients all the time, is identifying when you're in the ego, when you're in the higher self, and how to take that elevator up to the higher self, so to speak, so that you can come from a place of the whole. And there's incredible wisdom and experience from that place. And when you're coming from this place, I know that because we've talked about this hundreds of times, but when you come from that place, it's like, all is good. I don't need to get anywhere to feel okay. I don't need to accumulate anything for my good feeling. I'm just who I am, my essential nature is a good feeling. And it doesn't matter what's outside of me, doesn't interrupt that good feeling. Having said that, that doesn't mean I don't want to have certain things in my life, and be certain places and experience certain things, but I don't falsely think that those things are responsible for my good feeling. That to me is the trap. And I think this idea of the center of the universe is within you, this talk is about how that center is you. It's not out there. It's in here, not in this body, but in the experience of who I am, which doesn't really have a form. And that's kind of a key to the mastery of life. You know, I found, to the best of my ability, you know, I keep looking to do that more and more, and there's still more to learn about it. There's so many levels of it. But that's the direction that I want the listeners to kind of get the idea. That's the direction to kind of point yourself.
And I think the knowing that is available to us at any time, that choosing that direction puts your, I think personally, it's a very efficient direction. I mean, I think a lot of us meander around in growth without that conscious choice of direction. And choosing that direction then does give us this confidence that we don't have to worry. This is the direction we're on, and we keep bringing ourselves back to it. And it's a very, that's where the bliss, that innate, I don't think you used the word innate. What word did you use? That goodness that you don't need to find outside of yourself. It's your essential experience, validation, value, that okay, without the external, looking for it externally.
Right. So a little process that we learned together that I like to share with the audience, and we'll talk about this more in the other segments. And we're actually, in one of the segments, we're going to do a meditation to take people through an experience, right? Because to me, experience speaks volumes. You know, words are pointers, but experience is the real deal, the real stuff. But if you use your imagination and you imagine, if you take like some deep breaths and just kind of get yourself in a relaxed place inside of you, right? So you're kind of stepping out of your daily life and what the ego looks at and so on, and just kind of center inside yourself. And you imagine there's an elevator, and the elevator has a button that takes you to the higher self, or what we jokingly call the penthouse, right? So if you want to get up to the penthouse as a metaphor, so you press the button penthouse, you go in the elevator and you imagine going up to the penthouse, doors open, you walk out, and there's your higher self. There's your soul, or your higher vibrational you, the more essential you waiting there for you. And if you imagine just connecting with that part of yourself, becoming one with it. And then if you have an issue or a problem in your life you're struggling with, after you do that, if you ask for guidance, what to do there, you get a completely different point of view. And it's kind of a way to get used to connecting with this higher self. And I do lead a meditation once a week where we do stuff like that.
Oh, and it's terrific. It's terrific, terrific, terrific.
So anybody who's not on my list, you know, to get that meditation, just contact me and I'm happy to include you and you can join us, because that's the experiential part, right? But if we've kind of piqued your interest about wanting to understand and experience who this whole is so that you can have the love and the connection that is innately who you are, that you deserve, that God, whoever God is, the oneness of who we are wants everybody to have, right? All you have to do is to open yourself and look in that direction, and it's right there. If one of the things I found out, we've been studying this for 15 plus years, and then of course we've been independently studying that before that,
Right.
right? Is that there is nothing hidden in the world.
Right.
It's no secrets, nothing's hidden. It's right there for you to experience. And the way you experience it is through your focus. So depending on how you focus yourself, your experience changes. But that experience has always been there in the formless and of all possibilities. There's nothing new in a way, but things come in and out of form based on our focus, right? And I know you've discovered that
Oh, yeah.
yourself. Okay.
No,
So,
it's a great realization that not only do what we look at expands, but it's brought into being. It's brought into realization by our focusing on it. So you can shift your focus to expand your growth. You can say, show me new ideas. Show me, what is it I'm not seeing? What is it I'm not seeing? And by focusing that way, then new things come to you in terms of realizations and revelations, and you can accelerate this process.
that is a great question. So what I suggest, challenge our audience here whenever you're listening to this. If you do that little process that I described, and you take some deep breaths, you get into that inner state, however you do that, you imagine that elevator. You get on that elevator, you go up to the penthouse. You imagine the elevator open, even if you don't visualize it, just feel it. And then you step out into this light and you call on your higher self to meld with you. And then you ask the question, what am I not seeing? Ask that question. What am I not seeing? Then you be quiet and you let the answer come to you. Could come to you through thoughts, through a vision, through a felt sense, through a knowingness, however it comes to you. And then you, after you're quiet for a couple of minutes, get back on that elevator, go back down, open your eyes, and you write down whatever comes to you. What am I not seeing? What a beautiful way to get information from your higher self. And you may be totally surprised what you hear. And you could ask the same question a month later and get a completely different answer. Okay.
It's exciting.
All right. So, and I'm just looking for in our next podcast, we're going to talk a little bit more about this to understand this place of wholeness, this place of wisdom, how you get there, how you can possibly get there. And learning to be still is an element in doing that. So we'll be talking about that next time, a little bit about the idea, which I think is pivotal, of surrender and letting go. And everybody says, oh, in spiritual circles, I just want to surrender. Yeah, well, do you really want to surrender? What does that really mean? And what is going on there? And so that's what we're going to talk about next time, is a little bit more about the process of how you get to this experience of wholeness and what it takes, at least in our experience, to accomplish that and what you get out of that. So that's something to whet your appetite for a future podcast, a future video. All right, any closing words?
Well, I think it would be good I'm going to read this as we close.
Oh, you're going to, let's read the whole
right?
thing again, right?
Okay.
You read
And
it.
then now that we've had some energetic conversation about it, and we'll see how it lands in you. Okay. Everything that is seemingly outside of you is part of you. There is not outside or inside. There is just awareness and experience. Love is the container that holds all of the inside and outside and has absolutely no form. Your angry selves, upset parts, wishes, and flaws are a figment of your imagination that comes out of fragments of your consciousness that you perceive as separate. But the truth is, they are part of the whole of you. And when you experience the whole of you, those fragments just mix into the whole and have no separate power, no separate reality, and in an instant become an expression of the whole. The whole is love and the myriad expressions of love come from the whole, and then all your expressions will be of love. If you come from the whole, you don't have to worry about the outcome. It will always be an expression of love. The whole is your home, from which you always feel content and safe. So it doesn't matter what the expression is, because an expression, a fragment, can never take you from your experience of the whole if you choose to live from the whole.
Okay. So next time, let's learn a little bit about how to live from the whole.
Terrific.
You have a great day wherever
Yes.
you're listening to this. And it's our pleasure. And thank you, Ellen. By the way, Ellen has an amazing book called Be Happy No Matter What. And you can only do that if you're coming from the whole.
That is the truth. That is the truth.
So you might want to check
Who
that
knew
out.
that that's what was being written at the time? But that is absolutely the meaning of it.
Okay.
This has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
To be continued.
I'll
Have a
see you
great
next
day.
time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.